Shane put down in the performance rankings. They lost the McKenna Cup semi-final on penalties to Derry at the weekend.
But they're back, are they?
They're back. They're back at it. Donegal in the first round of the championship.
See what happens when you get a unified camp. Anything is possible.
Exactly. No, they didn't quite make it. I sat yesterday on the couch from 4 o'clock until almost midnight. So watched the North London derby at 4:30. I then proceeded to watch the Bills get over the Dolphins. And then I watched the tail end of the Masters snooker final as Judd Trump beat Mark Williams. So, I mean, my eyeballs hurt, my head hurts, and I don't know where to start, but let's start the performance rankings in the red with the two Miseryside clubs. Miseryside, you could even say.
Hey.
What? So, yeah, maybe...
Where were you when we were doing up the graphics, Shane?
Yeah, I know. Miseryside just fit perfectly, didn't it? And it's one of the stories that's kind of gone hidden across the weekend because there was so much else happening. But Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp's comments after the 3-0 defeat to Brighton, it was bad, really bad. That's the first comment that he came out with.
It should have been 7.
It should have been. An embarrassment. A lot of Liverpool fans I'm mates with were kind of like, this is the worst performance there has ever been from Liverpool, which was a bit of a stretch, but you'd certainly say it's up there with poor performances under Jurgen Klopp, for sure. After 18 league games, Liverpool have scored fewer goals, conceded more, won fewer points and have a worse goal difference than at this stage of any previous full top-flight campaign under Klopp. So is this the worst moment for Liverpool under Jurgen Klopp? Potentially. What is it, 9th in the Premier League table at the moment? And not only that, but as you say, Jared, like outplayed from start to finish at the Amex. Could have been much worse. Evan Ferguson got in there with a little assist against the team that tried to sign him at the same time Brighton were there. They've dropped 26 points in the league this season, 4 more than across the entire campaign last year. That'll tell you how big this slide is. Like, a lot of the pundits are kind of saying, is this Liverpool tired from all the battles in recent years with Man City? There's potentially an argument in that. They gave it all last year. You felt like, you know, they were challenging on 4 fronts, won the 2 cups, and then just petered out. And then this season, it's just... It's hard to see where their motivation lies, because you look at the likes of Virgil van Dijk. Now, there's justification to the argument of the injury. So they have Van Dijk out, Diaz out, Jota, several others. That's had an impact, especially at the weekend there, you'd imagine. But it's just individual mistakes, isn't it?
Well, I don't know if that individual mistakes thing is always shorthand for I haven't a clue what's going on. I'm not saying you, but with the managers.
Yeah,
are like,
for sure.
It's a Frank Lampard trope back in the day. Whenever things are going awry at Chelsea, it was always individual mistakes, and then Tuchel came in and the individual mistakes stopped. So I mean, I think the problems at Liverpool are befuddling at this point when you consider that, we thought it was maybe, you know, the absence of Sadio Mane bringing that energy to the front line, and then it was like all the midfielders all collectively failing at the same time, and then it's like, well, the centre backs don't seem to be as good as they used to be, and that's a general malaise all over throughout the team. The injury profile definitely not helping, but I can't remember as precipitous a collapse from a team who were the best in Europe to now also rans in the race for 4th. They're not also rans in the race for the Premier League title. Like, can anybody make a case for them to finish in the top 4 this season? At this point?
Not really.
It's gone, isn't it?
They're 10 points off United, who are 4th, with the same amount of games played. Look, that's catchable because there's still another game to go before we reach the halfway point.
If United had been beaten at the weekend, right?
Yeah.
You could have made a case. But now that United are winning, in the way that they're winning, with the confidence that they have, I don't think you can make a case for them to finish in the top 4.
Yeah.
Which leaves, you know, the massive, massive Champions League game as like the whole season riding on it.
Like, you look at the Brentford game 2 weeks ago and they lost 3-1. You look at the Wolves game in the FA Cup,
Brighton,
which they blew away. Brighton,
Brighton's just obviously happened.
Yeah, but like there's so many of these games. Sorry, my microphone's shaking there, but it's just nervous because there's so much happening. The opener, like Alexis McAllister was involved, intercept Matip's pass, and you're thinking, Matip, that is shocking. So there's been moments in Liverpool games now where like this team just is so disjointed. I'm just looking at the formation. So they had 4-3-1-2 on Saturday. Oxlade-Chamberlain behind the front 2 of Salah and Gakpo, but they just weren't at the races. They were imbalanced. They were poor. Jordan Henderson as well was fairly blunt, similar to Klopp. He was like, what went wrong? He was asked what went wrong, and he said everything. It hasn't been right for a little while now. I'll take responsibility. We're pretty low on confidence. The energy level is low. I mean, that's pretty damning. Your captain's coming out and saying we're low on confidence and the energy in the team is low. Which, why is Liverpool any? Why is their energy any lower than any other team? I mean, they all had the World Cup to contend with. Alexis McAllister was one of Brighton's best players of the weekend, and he went all the way in the World Cup. So, I mean, energy is just an excuse, isn't it?
A shout out to Solly Marsh's finish for his second goal.
For sure.
That was amazing. I like that. Are we sleeping on that?
Shout out to Roberto De Zerbi for getting the most of the Solly March. He didn't score at all last season.
Roberto De Zerbi
scored 4 now.
Like,
4 already.
You know?
Seriously, like March, those kind of like handy enough players for Cardiff back in the day, and it was like, he was an okay signing for Brighton.
Doesn't know our league.
He's turned. I love that. I love when he sticks it to him. Do you know who originally got that? Marco Silva, when he first came to England as well, when he was Hull manager. One? Yeah, well, one of the big ones on a certain show castigated the appointment of this unknown Portuguese man who's now absolutely flying it with Fulham. And it's great to see with De Zerbi too. And obviously he's very good to our own boy up front too. And just watching the highlights back, even on was a match of the day, Jonathan Pearce, I think, did the Brighton Liverpool game, and he was saying, quite objectively, Evan Ferguson's making a serious difference to this Brighton side.
Is Jonathan Pearce in that game after the match? He is, isn't he? It sounds like it.
Well, I think all of this match of the day stuff is like, it's fantastically well written in hindsight.
Too well written, almost.
Yeah, unless you have incredible foresight as a commentator.
I suppose, why would you do it during the game? It doesn't make any sense. You just do
well, if you have the time, but that game was that was a 3 o'clock game, wasn't it? So you could have had time.
No,
yeah, you would have had time.
It's obviously post match. It's very knowing.
Yeah.
My favourite Jonathan Pearce was Robot Wars. Remember that show?
I do. Yeah, I knew that would be your favourite.
Yeah. I used to enjoy the Robot Wars.
Always comes across as so angry, so disgruntled with modern football as Jonathan Pearce.
Well,
also, he famously commentated on the Eric Cantona Kung Fu kick, wasn't he? I care not a jot of his talent.
Yeah.
He should never play again.
That is a disgrace.
Now Ferguson has 2 assists, right, in the Premier League. And both quite handy assists, because he just passed the ball to someone who ended up doing something unbelievable. But it all counts in the stats.
And it's great. Premier League
great to see. But De Zerbi's doing a great job. And for Klopp, like, you mentioned the stats there, Shane, like, there's so much you can say, like, they haven't kept a clean sheet in the last 8 games. But also, I think the biggest takeaway altogether is Klopp saying this is the worst game ever in his managerial career, ever. And remember 2 years ago, we were all like, he's going to leave, he's going to go.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem like he's up for it. Then last season, they were brilliant. And now it's back to that conversation again. But I think he wants to stay. I think he wants to see his contract out. What happens after Klopp?
That's the thing. Is it a rebuilding? Like, a lot of people are saying that this is a rebuilding phase for Liverpool that is about to happen. I don't know. Is it that bad that they have to now start from scratch, start from zero? And
well, it's not scratch. They still obviously have Mo Salah. I mean, unless they decide to cash in on Salah at this point, because like,
Salah looks a bit sad without Mane. He looks a bit sad without his creative tension partner. It's like, I kind of miss the yin and yang. I miss the Liam and Noel. Do you know, he gets on probably too well with Darwin.
You must have a theory on Liam and Noel getting back together now.
Well, I mean, I woke up to that news on Saturday morning. It was very sad.
Is it happening?
Well,
no. The personal news of Noel Gallagher. It's very sad.
All right.
Yeah.
His marriage is
ending after 11 years, and they were going out for 22 years. But now I was thinking, I was talking to a fellow who said, if he needs the money now for whatever legalities are coming up.
I didn't even think of the money.
Oh yeah, he's going to be like, let's do it, yeah. Because and apparently that's why the rumours are circulating in the last few months that he's far more open than he used to be. He was on that pub talk with Ray Parlour and the other lad.
When Ray Parlour was doing his Corona and shot for the Queen.
Yeah. Yes. And anyway, he was on this and all, and then he was kind of open to the reunion, which he never was previously. And it all goes so because they were possibly going to actually divorce, and now.
Right, okay. But they're going to sell all their music in the way Bob Dylan did, right? Because they've reached that point where they can sell it for. He
wants it for his kids. Yeah, he said he's happy to do that. So it's all adding up. So that could happen. That
was
very
a slight tangent.
Bad again for Noel Gallagher, with City and Miseryside. When we move on to Everton, somebody has finally corrected the title there and moved it to Miseryside there.
Hey.
We should mention Everton while we're on Miseryside very briefly. James Ward-Prowse, shocker, scoring a stunning free kick. 2 goals for him in the second half. Southampton, we said it when they beat Man City in the Cup. Is this the start of it? Sorry, it was the League Cup. Is this the start of the Southampton turnaround? And, well, I mean, it was a quality win for them at the weekend, and a season of frustration for Frank Lampard and Everton continuing. Enough concern at the club. The safety of the board wasn't given the green light, so they didn't show up to the game. So they were afraid of their own safety. The fans were quite amenable to the Everton players at the end of the game, regardless of the result. You remember 9 months ago when Everton avoided relegation with that win over Palace, and it's just party all around at Goodison Park. And now you're looking, start of January 2023, things just aren't good. Lampard got the dreaded vote of confidence last week from Farhad Moshiri. How long will that last? I don't know. But if results keep continuing, and if you look at the bottom of the Premier League now, the 3 teams on the same number of points at the bottom, 15 points, Southampton on the bottom, Everton second bottom, and West Ham in 18th position. So 3 teams that I don't think anyone would have predicted at the start of the year.
To see Yerry Mina confronting the Everton fans afterwards, he was quite happy to talk to them. They were quite happy to talk to him, and it was getting quite passionate, and he seemed to keep his cool. But it's I'm kind of surprised that Frank Lampard's still in a job. I really am. But maybe the distraction is actually the board directors being told to stay away. That Lampard might be one of the lesser problems at the club at the moment, and that's the fans seem to be certainly aiming their ire towards the upstairs parties rather than the man in the dugout too. I think a lot of Everton fans, like I remember us talking about him when he took over first, and I think one of their first games was away to Newcastle, which they lost, and they were very supportive of him on social media. Very supportive of him.
There was somebody else was going to get the job, and they were like, no, we want Lampard.
It was the I know who I think it was Garcia, wasn't it? And he interviewed first, and then he came out bizarrely before the decision was made, saying, I think I can do great things with this club. And then 24 hours later, Lampard was appointed, which was a bit of a shock at the time. But the Everton fans, certainly online, were very supportive of the man.
They were. If say a Roberto De Zerbi figure had been up against Frank Lampard, would the Everton fans in their wisdom have gone for Lampard? I mean, how do we know the other guy wasn't a De Zerbi in waiting?
Possibly.
He definitely deserved it. The top 3 odds now in this. Of course, the next Everton manager, next permanent Everton manager. The odds. So at 3rd place, this has changed over the last number of days. Roberto Martinez 7-2, Wayne Rooney 2nd favourite 3-1, and the favourite at 2-1 is Sean Dyche. So I mean, Dyche is the favourite to take over Everton if and when Lampard gets the sack. If the results continue, you'd imagine, as you say, Colin, it could be fairly soon that Frank Lampard finds himself out of a job. He'll get another one. That's the way football works.
I'm not sure.
Will he?
There's not that
He's
many.
already had 3.
There's not that
He's
many
flying
jobs
through
left for
him.
him.
He is flying through. No, he'll get something. He'll get something. But I'm starting to wonder, is he that bad, or is this Everton side just not good enough? I actually thought he signed okay. Like his 2 centre halves are very good for that level, Tarkowski and Cody. So that was like a pretty smart acquisition.
Level? Premier League level?
For that level of the Premier League, yeah. I thought it was a smart acquisition. Like Jordan Pickford's a good keeper. Like Patterson's a good right back. Then you have Coleman as well on that side. Like they have a few handy enough players, but then the further you go up the field, it's just not a very threatening final third squad.
Yeah.
And I would be fascinated to know how, say, a tactically evolved coach, how much more they would be getting out of this Everton side. But with Lampard, he kind of seems to stop turning on his players as much as he used to. Remember last season, he was constantly throwing them under the bus. Yeah. I think he realises now that maybe they're not so bad.
He's stuck with them.
Maybe they're not so bad.
It was Vitor Pereira who was going to be the manager that they were going to appoint.
Sliding doors.
He's at Flamengo at the moment.
That's the way it happens.
Just appointed. He was at Corinthians before that. So I don't know. Like, look, Everton. Who's going to give us? Who's going down now?
I think Southampton will go down. I think Bournemouth will go down, and I think potentially, whisper it, Leeds United.
Oh yeah. The Leeds fans I know are they say that they feel like there's no hope. It's just avoiding relegation at this stage.
They're on edge.
Do you remember I got ridiculed for mentioning Palace about 5-6 weeks ago?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous what he's talking about.
So they're 12. Yeah.
Did you?
I did, yeah. I said everybody from Palace down is in trouble.
They're 7 points ahead.
Any one of them could sink like a stone. And since then, Palace is sinking. It's just that the teams around them aren't great.
They have United at home on Wednesday night, Palace, so that's a...
Also, you know who we haven't really talked about at all much this season is David Moyes at West Ham. Like, this is kind of falling massively flat, really, really flat. And same with Brendan Rodgers at Leicester.
Yeah.
I mean, we could have any number of people in the red this weekend from the Premier League.
It's a brilliant relegation battle, all the way from Palace down to Southampton.
So you think your lot are okay in the 11th, Aston Villa 11th?
Villa are fine. Not Villa are looking up instead of down.
They're only 3 points ahead of Palace with one more game played, Jer. So I mean, they're...
Yeah, but their form is 4 wins and 6.
True, fair.
And the new manager's come in who's a grown-up.
Fair, yeah.
Getting good stuff out of the players.
Like Emery. Move on.
Yeah, just before we do, I'm going to get to some of the YouTube comments. They were active and ready. They were waiting for us this morning. John Hoare, before we even started the show, hey lads, Casemiro, best defensive midfielder in the league. Pogba out, Casemiro in is the biggest change in Man United performance. It's not. It's not the biggest change in Man United's performance. Having a manager who knows what the fuck he's doing is the single biggest change at Manchester United. We all know it, and you can't. That's the starting point for everything, and it should be the starting point now for every single club. It's like, does our manager know what he's doing? Yes or no? If yes, proceed. If no, get rid and keep going until you find somebody. And so Everton should just get rid of Lampard. Like, they should just get rid of Lampard and say, right, that's done, we need to find somebody. And maybe then it'd be safe for the board to go to the games.
I don't have any children. I know you do, Ger, but and Colm, you don't just yet. But I think if I had a child tomorrow,
that you know of,
yeah. If I had a child tomorrow that I was told about, I think I'd call them Casemiro. I think they'd be Casemiro Hannon. It has a ring to it, you know.
Cristiano Fitzgerald.
I was going to say Casemiro Fitzgerald.
Yeah, maybe.
Audie Casemiro Fitzgerald.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Fergus Keogh says, has Klopp reached a sell-by date? And David Tomley goes, Klopp's 7-year itch. History has shown it. Lads, the 7-year itch. Marilyn Monroe moves in upstairs in the movie. That's what happens, right? And at the end, he goes back to his family. So the 7-year itch is just like a little passing fancy. It's not a real thing. And
it's also 8 years.
Who is Jurgen Klopp's? Where's Marilyn Monroe in this? It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Cody Gakpo maybe is Marilyn Monroe. Maybe
one of the all-time great movies, by the way. If you haven't watched it, it's sensational. Perfect.
Really?
Yeah.
That's just because Marilyn Monroe's in it.
No, the writing is sensational. Yeah. Absolutely amazing.
I saw The Apartment recently. That's a great film. Jack Lemmon.
Oh
my God.
Love Jack Lemmon.
It's brilliant. Honestly.
Who's the
lead?
Mia Farrow.
No, Shirley MacLaine.
Oh
yeah, have her autograph at home.
Do you?
Yeah.
Wow, it's very good now.
Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau, the great double act, unfortunately died before I could write to them. I was actually cursing a lot of old celebrities when I was younger. I used to write letters to celebrities, and they'd send back an autograph, and within 2 weeks they'd be dead.
Oh, so you were literally cursing them as opposed to
killing them
giving
off.
out about them.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Mum would be like, "There's a letter in the post for you there." I'd open it, and it was an actor who had already died 2 weeks previous, but it had taken 3 weeks for it to arrive.
Wow.
And I was like, "This is weird."
Do you remember the name?
There was a few of those instances.
Were you like sending little white powder to them?
I remember being in touch with a baseball player for the Detroit Tigers. This pitcher, I think Mark Fidrick was his name, and he sent me a letter, signed a couple of baseball cards on baseball for me. I don't know. I went through a period of supporting the Detroit Tigers in the Major League, and he sent me 2 baseball cards back, and killed in a farm accident on his tractor, literally as the cards were en route to me.
Oh,
he was
wow!
only, like in his 50s, so it was
right.
like. There was incidents like that happening. I'm not saying I cursed them, but
immediately increasing the value of the baseball cards 100%. Is what you were thinking.
Well, yeah, that's the dark way of looking at
Jesus.
it.
He died April 13th, 2009.
Mark Fidrick. Yeah.
Remember it well?
I remember it.
You would have been late teens.
What age was he? He was in his 50s, I think.
54.
Madness. Sticks with
30.
You. Yeah. Well, that sort of thing sticks with you. Anyway, sorry, that's a tangent. How did we get there?
Klopp 7-year. Oh, sorry. Here, leave him for another few seasons, says Mark C. The Man United fans feeling themselves. They're loving this Liverpool story. It's not just the Man United are good, it's the Liverpool are terrible. It's perfect. Excellent win for Arsenal yesterday, says Mark Dunning. Completely outplayed them in the first half. Biggest difference was probably the performance of the 2 keepers. Ramsdale looked so assured. Lloris looked well dodgy. We're going to get to that, don't worry.
We will. We'll move on to the next element of red, the next colour up, and City and Spurs. Again, we'll start in maybe order of when this game happened. Man City and the players not too happy at United's equaliser, Bruno Fernandes's goal and the offside that wasn't. Manuel Akanji, Kyle Walker, Jack Grealish, kind of coming around Stuart Atwell in the tunnel apparently after the match. Harry Maguire coming out of the United dressing room to appease matters. Scott McTominay getting involved as well, as McTominay tends to do. They just weren't happy.
All this. What happened?
Apparently it was just they were. It wasn't a fracas. It was kind of the City players with those 3 I named to the fore, surrounding Stuart Atwell and his officials. Darren Cann, of course, the linesman over on that far side that allowed the goal to stand. So they just surrounded him, complained about the goal, wouldn't drop it, and then the United players got involved to kind of calm them down and help them move away. But it wasn't exactly the Battle of Old Trafford and the Battle of the Buffet, but still, City not happy. In the moment, I was like, great decision by the officials, letting that goal stand. Rashford has not touched the ball. He was not involved in the play. But then in hindsight, I was like, okay, probably if that goal had been against United fans would have been pretty upset. So it was one of those moments you can kind of understand from City's perspective. Pep Guardiola on the sideline remonstrated and then straight away tried to get the City players back in focus, but it didn't work. United went on to of course, score the winning goal, and the rest is history.
Is this not all a distraction from what's actually going on at Manchester City, all this noise from the match of the weekend? Because this game, again, they were very poor in attack. They only had 2 shots.
Yeah.
One of them was the goal. They
Strange.
were very poor, and it's a match of the day again. They did very good analysis of what's wrong with them in attack, and Ian Wright was pointing out Erling Haaland is doing everything right on his side, but the City players just aren't servicing him. So he makes brilliant vertical runs, essentially, that the City players just refuse to put him through.
He's too good for them.
And they're playing a lot of sideways and kind of diagonal passes where Haaland's kind of throwing his hands up in the air like Robbie Keane style back in the day, where he's now gone offside, so they have to regenerate the ball. But like Ian Wright pointed out, maybe a handful of occasions where Haaland was through one-on-one if the ball was played at the right time with the right accuracy, and it just wasn't. And they seemed a bit like, you've never really said much about Manchester City sides under Pep Guardiola that kind of lacked ideas a bit.
They did.
And when they went one up, I don't know about you, Shane, but it wasn't any great big fear based on how they were playing. I thought, okay, they might come into it, they might step on now a bit, but I really actually backed United to get back into the game.
It's almost what United needed, the City goal. And then when they got one, you were thinking, well, the momentum is with them now. They're going to get a second. I actually noticed, maybe it's confirmation bias, but I thought in the tunnel before the match, Haaland looked, I'm not going to use the word nervous, but he certainly looked like the weight of the world was on his shoulders. This was the game where, of course, it meant the most to him probably, with the whole story about his dad, and I'm sure it's all floating through his head when he hears the Stone Roses come on and this is the one, and they're walking out and he's like, well, okay, I'm in Old Trafford now, I'm playing for City, this is Manchester Derby. I felt like he looked more nervous than he normally does before a match. Look, he didn't have the worst game at all. United kind of stifled him. I thought putting Luke Shaw centre half to kind of match him for pace worked. Fred had De Bruyne in his pocket for the first, certainly 30-35 minutes at least. Now De Bruyne eventually gets the assist, of course, for City's goal, but the first while, Fred is just a shadow of De Bruyne, and he's given him nothing. And look, Fred does that job very well. He follows his man around, does a job like, I don't know, like Park Ji-sung or someone to that effect. But really, really good performance from United. But City, I don't think you'd be too concerned about City. Look, so losing to Southampton during the week was a warning sign. Losing to United in the manner in which they did was pretty poor as well. But you'd still imagine they'll be back. And Antonio Conte, after the match yesterday, saying it's a two-horse race for the title. Completely dismissing United and Newcastle.
You know what, Haaland, you've picked up on something there. I think when he cares too much, his performances suffer. Ben Godfrey, remember the Everton game there a couple of weeks ago, finished 1-1. Godfrey's winding him up the whole game, and then Haaland finally got a free kick and started like wildly gesticulating to the crowd, come on, and he was kind of quiet after that. And I think, but this is his first time playing at Old Trafford as well. I think it would have been. Yeah, certainly as a City player.
Yeah,
I mean, he probably thought this was going to be the day, and he probably had a celebration planned and was thinking too far ahead. But the best Haaland is the objective one, the cold one, who just kills people. But
he didn't look cold to me before the game. He looked nervous.
Now, I'll tell you what though, that Bruno Fernandes goal, grateful, but just never stood. I mean,
great finish.
You can't allow that goal happen.
I don't understand the rules anymore.
You just can't.
It's
I mean, he 100% interfered with play.
Like
100%.
There's been this mad controversy in American football ever since Des Bryant last week, 5-6 years ago, made a catch at the end of the game which would have won the game for the Dallas Cowboys, and was like, oh, it's a catch, and then they went upstairs and the VAR basically equivalent was like, oh no, that's not a catch because it wasn't a football movement. And since then I remember listening to somebody going, if 100 people are in a pub watching the game and they think that's offside, it's offside, right? Because that's like, everybody should be able to understand the rules. The joy of football used to be that it was so easy that everybody watching could go, yeah, I understand exactly what's happening here. And that's gone because, like, you know, I mean, technically, apparently, by the letter of the law, it's all perfectly fine. Like, but it shouldn't be.
But these rules were altered for the right reasons, right? It was to improve the game. That they thought, well, look, there's a bit of injustice here with the offside, so we're going to try and benefit some party. But the traditional rule was you benefit the attacking play, and it was. I don't remember offside being such a huge debate 10, 20 years ago. No. I just don't remember it being a big deal. The same way that players are absolutely obsessed with handball now. If there's any idea at all of a handball in the penalty area, everyone goes mental. And I don't remember that being the case a long time ago. Well,
they changed that rule too, and then they've changed it back again.
Yeah, so there's almost a priority given to set piece winning rather than playing football. And that is because of the rules. But the idea was right in the first place, but the execution of it, it's frustrating.
We got to keep going.
Yeah,
we'll come back to this. Right.
We'll mention Spurs briefly. Hugo Lloris's shout, and I think there's not much else to be said. He palmed the ball into his own goal, and Spurs did a Spurs. If Bob Dwyer's watching this morning, you can let us know what you made of that. But really, I mean, it was about Arsenal's performance for the majority of the early part of the game. Lloris was just crap. And to point it in complete direction of the other way, Aaron Ramsdale had a brilliant game for Arsenal. So it was a tale of two keepers. First win at Spurs for Arsenal since 2014, but we'll come back to them in the green. Junior final in the GA, lads, in the amber this morning. I mean, Foss's performance deserves to be in the green, but then the discipline and the disciplinary breaches on both sides probably are the reason why we've put this final, generally speaking, in amber. It was a bit shocking to watch towards the end. So 19 points to Fossa, 113 to Stewartstown Harps, the Tyrone team, as you mentioned, the Kerry-Tyrone battle. Stewartstown finished the game with 11 men, 4 players sent off, 3 of them on straight red cards in the second half. 2 fellas sent off, 2 Cliffords in fact for Fossa. It was just one of those strange, bizarre games, especially towards the tail end. It's still in the melting pot, so you're wondering why Stewartstown are doing this. But the really sickening moment was, a lot of people will have seen it now. If you didn't see it live, you'll have seen it on Twitter. Anton Coyle with a sickening hit on Paudie Clifford. Paudie Fitzgerald, as Larry McCarthy was calling him in the post-match, handing the trophy over to him, but it is Paudie Clifford. That elbow in the face. And the worst thing about this is that this is on television. It's in front of a stadium full of people. And you're still doing something like that. Anton Coyle should be banned for a significant period of time. It's something you see quite often. And look, I know when Tyrone and Kerry clubs come together, there's an extra element of spice. There's a little bit of hatred there as well. But there's no place in the game for that. And look, a lot of the red cards, you could say, was it a red card? Was it not? Paudie Clifford in his speech afterwards. I think we might have a clip of that, do we? Of Paudie Clifford's speech. Here's a look at what Paudie Clifford had to say after the match.
To the referee and to his officials, obviously a tough game there to ref at the end. A good job other than the end when I was wrongly sent off. Unbelievable how I was sent off. But a great job all around.
A great job all round, yeah. Apart from the bit where they sent me off. But
I have a dream. That's up there with I have a dream speech, isn't it? That's one of the great speeches of our times. Jesus, what was the Churchill one as well? Yeah.
It's the incredulity in his voice, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the fact that he goes back again and says it.
Totally
I just can't believe I was sent off. It's total verbalisation of his thoughts.
You can't celebrate this because you're condoning attacks on referees, according to my Twitter feed. I was like, I mean, come on, everybody.
It was just funny because
think of the children.
Yeah.
Think of the children. It's like, fair play. The whoever is the match director, I think it's Nematon doing those games, right? But they were straight over to the referee with the footage. It was like, and they weren't cutting away from it. And they were also like, I don't know if you saw the aftermath. Like the Stewartstown players and management team are still in with the fuss of players complaining after the game. There was none of the incredible interviews I thought from David Clifford in particular, where he's like, there's so much riding on this. That's all that is. That's all. I don't bear any grudges to them whatsoever. We're going to play a clip of that in a minute. He straight away is understanding exactly what's going on and why it's like that. But at full time, many of the Stewartstown players and backroom team were still in lippy and chippily giving crap to Fossa. Bad losers, really, really bad losers in that instance. And I mean, I don't know, it just seems to be it's
in the water, Ger. Go on, say it.
Why always Tyrone?
Yeah.
What is it about Tyrone football culture that results in this?
There's something like people from Coal Island up in Tyrone call it the island, but there's something island-esque about the entire county of Tyrone. Now, as a Monaghan man, I can say this: we're border counties. My granny is from Tyrone. I live 10 minutes from the border with Tyrone.
And would you go and just play friendlies with them, or are you like, no, because we don't want to be beaten black and blue?
They're often.
We don't want our girlfriend's numbers written on the.
Yeah, and sometimes there aren't many friendlies considering the geographic proximity. You know, you might choose teams from Fermanagh or from Armagh for an easier life. I mean that disciplinarily speaking, but I mean it was one of those things yesterday where you're like, look, Tyrone's edge and their bite and their little bit of aggressiveness is what has probably brought them so much success through the noughties, even up to now, the All-Ireland a couple of years ago. But there's also elements of this in the club game that's fairly disgusting in Tyrone. Let's be honest.
The thing is, right, it's not the bite that won them the All-Irelands. It's the quality of the football that they played.
Yeah.
And the bite. The bite is the bit where...
siege mentality though, maybe, I'm saying.
Well, but no, this is completely over. They completely lost the run of themselves in that game. And how many times have you seen it? You saw it last year in the Championship. When the game was going against them, it was like, red cards all round. Because there's
against Armagh in the league.
That's just a bad culture.
Yeah.
There's something... The bit that makes you a great footballer is not the bit that makes you a thug. And I'm not singling out any of the individual things yesterday, right? But there's an element of thuggery involved in completely losing the run of yourself and then getting into these brawls. But like, it's always somebody else's fault. It's always somebody else's fault as well. The victimhood that we see constantly is like, oh, they started it. Like, it's funny how there's just this strain of consistency that seems to be Tyrone. And like, here's the thing: some of the best football performances we've seen in the last 20 years have been from Tyrone Gaelic football teams when they're just playing football, like they did against Kerry in the noughties. That team was sensational. They were absolutely gifted. Now they might say that it was the forge of club football that turned them into a team who were capable of doing what they did to Armagh and to Kerry. I don't know, but like, this stuff is nonsensical and it's completely self-defeating. They were still in the game. They'd handled Clifford relatively well, even though he kicks 11 points. You're like, you any team going out will go 11 points. That's about, if we can keep everybody else quiet, that's about, we might be able to win this game. And they managed that, except in the last 10 minutes where they completely lost their discipline, and then they couldn't take it at the end. Like, they lost their discipline, they got all the red cards, and then they're the ones chippy at the end. Come on, what are you doing?
Was it Hamlet? Something is rotten in the state of Tyrone. I don't know. There's just, and look, I like Tyrone. I just said it. My granny's from Bala. I'm always knocking a Cloy.
I love Tyrone. Yeah. I thought they were the team of the noughties. Yeah, what are you doing? What are you doing?
They make it hard to love them when there are moments like this. And look, Stewartstown's players probably, a lot of them will wake up today and go, yeah, okay, that was a bit much. Maybe if we kept our discipline, we could have won the game.
I don't think they will.
No?
I don't think they will. I don't know. It'd be interesting to hear.
Maybe not from a moral perspective, but from a, we could have won the game if we'd all stayed in the pitch perspective.
But well, I mean, but like, I don't know. I know. Tyrone lads, come on, let's be having you. What is the story?
Yeah.
Why does this happen to you so often?
It's a bit concerning, isn't it? But yeah, that was the disgraceful part of the game, and then Clifford's season: 20 goals in 187 games from 187 points from 34 games with county, club, district, and college in the 2022 to 23 season. He's ridiculous.
But also zero sense of getting carried away with it. Like, just like so calm in the aftermath. It was incredible how calm he was in the interviews that he did with TG Carr and he did with Aisling, and like Paddy, not calm.
No, for sure.
I still can't believe it.
Neither of them will play a minute of the league, will they?
And the wry smile of definitely Clifford was like, oh, we'll be off for a couple of weeks. 3 or 4 was what he said in the interview with Aisling. It was like, I'll be off for a couple of weeks, and then he was like, no, I'm going to have 3 or 4 weeks off now.
He missed the Kerry holiday, Clifford.
He did, yeah.
Both of them was worth it, wasn't it?
They played him in the pre-season tournament last year. Remember that?
Yeah, madness. I'd be surprised to see him in the league at any point. Maybe towards the tail end of the last couple of games he might appear, but he deserves a break. If any
11 scores from 12 attempts as well.
Here.
He was pretty good. Almost
passed at the end though for a goal.
Almost another highlight reel where the keeper comes out and gets caught in possession, and it like, he reminded me at times yesterday of Pele. There's the Pele miss. Pele was always like trying to score the great goal. There's the one where
dummy.
Yeah. And it just goes over the crossbar, and that would have been another like, for him at this stage, for anything to make the highlight reel, it has to be out of this world because he's got so many of them. That was one. And then there was another bit where he reminded me of the real Ronaldo in his the early Barca or the PSV days, where there's lads pulling his jersey.
Barcelona,
off the back of him.
Bobby Robson, manager, on the sideline.
There's literally exactly the same thing happening yesterday, where they were pulling his jersey and the referee's like, advantage because I think you're going to score, and then he does score, and it's like, yeah, no problem.
Not to be too hyperbolic, but is he the best ever for you?
I mean, it's definitely
too early to tell, is it?
I don't know, is it? Because look at his last 12 months. I mean, he couldn't have done more.
You would say that, like, already he's in the conversation, and it's now just a matter of making sure that, like, the 4 All-Stars already puts him in that conversation. You know, he's clearly on a trajectory that is taking him past anybody else we've ever seen.
If his career ended tomorrow, where would he sit?
Well, it'd be like James Dean. If his career ended tomorrow, there'd be a sense of enormous loss for us as sports fans about what we would miss. So I'm wishing him all the best, and enjoy the break on the beach wherever it takes you, David Clifford, and we're really excited about what's coming next.
Well deserved. Do we have another clip, or do you want to just move on to Green?
No, go ahead.
Move on. Someone comments, Chippy right, Diego Simeone should manage Tyrone.
Simeone wouldn't have a patch. He'd be going up there to learn. He'd be on one of those, like, when he quits Atletico, you know the way everybody goes around the world, they all go and visit the All Blacks, and what does this no decades rule mean? Diego Simeone would be straight into club football in Tyrone going, what can I learn, lads? Show me, how do you get away with this stuff?
We were talking about tackling school for Owen Farrell. Shithousery school is in the Tyrone GA Centre.
They should open that up.
That's where what the lessons are.
Yeah.
So,
20 grand an hour.
Yeah, I mean, look, Malachy O'Rourke should manage Tyrone. Concentrate on the football, lads. Let's win something again. Although they did win the All-Ireland a couple of years ago, and they look fairly dangerous this year, Tyrone, I have to say. In the McKenna Cup final, the competition that they love. We'll move on to the green, lads. We'll get back to Clifford, no doubt, during the sports pages a bit later on. Munster, and we'll, of course, touch on this with Alan Quinlan this morning as well. But Munster's performance the weekend, second half surge by Northampton Saints to almost come back in this Heineken Champions Cup Pool B game. 27 points to 23 for anyone who's in Thomond Park. Let us know on Saturday night. First half red card for Jack O'Donoghue. You're thinking this is going to be a tough evening for Munster. But they now lie fourth. So all the drama and the fear and the loathing that happened towards the start of the season and before Christmas there. I mean, it's all okay now in the state of Munster. 24 points up at the interval, thanks to those brace of tries from Gavin Coombs, solo score from O'Donoghue before he was sent off. And that sending off really led to Northampton Saints' comeback in the second half. James Ram and Tommy Freeman scoring for Northampton after the break. Not the great Tommy Freeman, of course, but the other Tommy Freeman from Northampton. And Finn Smith adding 13 points from the boot as well. They just couldn't quite get the comeback going, Northampton, but it was a really good performance. And you're looking at the age profile of some of the Munster team. I saw this commented on at the weekend, like the likes of Keith Earls, Peter O'Mahony, Conor Murray, Dave Kilcoyne. But then there's young players like Coombs, like Casey, like Daly that are coming through, and maybe the next generation of Munster players doesn't look so bad. And it seems that South Africa A win back in November was a bit of a turning point. Everyone remembers the atmosphere there, so it feels like that was maybe the moment at which Munster pushed on.
I think maybe the moment was getting rid of Johan van Graan and accidentally and all as that was, and putting Graham Rowntree in, because there's no way that Van Graan would have picked the team that Rowntree picked. And we'll talk about this with Alan Quinlan in a couple of minutes. So if you're catching this on podcast, make sure you get over to the OTB Rugby feed and subscribe to that, because something has changed, specifically in the team selection, and we'll deal with that. No Conor Murray in the matchday squad, no Keith Earls in the matchday squad, as you've said. So we'll talk about this a little bit later with Quinlan. But if you're a Munster fan, we'd like to hear you this morning. 0879 180 180 is the WhatsApp number, or you can leave a comment to the YouTube stream at Off the Ball AM on Twitter as well. Yeah, touch briefly then finally on the two teams that deserve the positivity out of the Premier League weekend. Manchester United and Arsenal. We'll start with United, of course, from Saturday afternoon. Casemiro, I mean, enough said really. United still believed, as you said, Colin, it was even when they went a goal down, there was the faith that seemed to be there in the stadium amongst the home fans, and when the equaliser, albeit controversial, went in, United pushing on to win the game wasn't really that surprising. Marcus Rashford, unbelievable of late. His performances have been exemplary. His goal scoring is just there, and that's what United need, especially when Anthony Martial doesn't look fit. Wout Weghorst watching the game with his kids in the stand. Some smirks in the crowd from him, because that's probably the type of player United need. When you look at the game at the weekend, it was just something. There was something missing up front, and now finally they got the two goals that they needed. I said Fred did a brilliant job on Kevin De Bruyne. When Alejandro Garnacho came on, he added a bit of liveliness and changed the game as well. But overall, excellent performance from United, I think we'll all agree. And I don't know if they're in the title race yet. I don't think they are, but certainly they're making themselves more comfortable in terms of that top four battle. And if they can add a trophy to their ranks this season, the first since 2017, it will be a successful season. Arsenal then, top of the table, and deservedly so. Saka caused all sorts of trouble down the right-hand side yesterday in the North London derby. Lloris shoveling the ball into his net probably helped for the opening goal. Thomas Partey almost scoring one of the goals of the season with that strike off the post.
Oh my God.
That was just incredible. It nearly broke the stanchion, like.
It's made an involuntary noise. He hit that.
Yeah, I think we all squealed.
He has that in him. He scored a screamer against Spurs in the reverse fixture.
Yeah, he only scores screamers.
You're getting grief for not having Newcastle in the green. They're the United you're talking about with United in. That was like
Mitrovic's
thankfully for Mitrovic's Bodevine's ending impression.
Yeah. So his little slip. But yeah, Newcastle for sure. Thereabouts, they deserve it. And ugly scenes at full time at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium that we should mention as well. The Spurs fan kicking Ramsdale in the back, and Ramsdale, I was wondering why he was so animated towards the end, but when you see the replay, that's exactly why.
Well, Richarlison as well.
Well, yeah,
he was winding him up.
Arteta did a good job.
Did anybody hear Richard Keys on that?
No.
On Arteta?
Terrible take.
Did you see this?
Yeah, ridiculous.
Keys suggesting that Mikel Arteta started it all with his demeanour on the sideline. This is a historical thing.
A couple of weeks ago. Yeah.
No, but also in the game he threw the ball away when Kulusevski was trying to take a quick throw and smirked, and after that there was a bit of needle.
Sure,
and Richard Keys is suggesting that went all the way to what happened with Ramsdale.
Look, I think that
Richard's a confident man in his own abilities.
Set a tone, and there are repercussions for your tone, but he did also calm it down. He did get Xhaka out at the end. He did get Ramsdale out at the end. He did run into the middle of it and like insert himself, which he obviously likes. You know,
I think the fan ruined
it. Perfect scenario for him
because there was an act of solidarity between both sets of players once the fan got involved. If the fans stayed away, it would have been great because it would have been Arsenal versus Spurs all over again.
Bit of juiciness.
All right. Anything else?
That's all I think. United and Arsenal deservedly in the green, lads.
That is this week's version of the Gillette Labs Performance Rankings.